Kenyans do thrive in whatever aspect, in the public or private sector. Now, how do you rate the state of governance in this country, Mr. Kigoli?
Thank you very much, and our viewers. I'm delighted to join you this morning. And my initial reaction is that any sound and legitimate government would come in place with the sole purpose of transforming lives and improving the standards of living as well. And when this government came into power, it came at a time when the economy was between a rock and a hard place. We needed a leadership that would innovate and be pragmatic in its approach in terms of implementing the policy measures that would transform the fortunes of the country. And it is still debatable as to whether this current government is getting it right in terms of fixing the issues that are facing Kenyans and the country at large. And we as a nation, we are run by policies and pieces of legislation that are, enacted or formulated by the respective arms of government or agencies there. And when you look at the elephant in the room or the subject matter at hand, you would want to ask yourself, when this finance bill 2023 was being formulated, what parameters were being considered in terms of determining what percentage to allocate to what item? And you want to ask yourself, what is the essence of moving the VAT on fuel from 8% to 16%? Of what economic ramification is it going to have in terms of improving the lives of people or worsening the lives of people? Now, when you tax a lot more on fuel, it means you are practically affecting every other sector of the economy, because transport is run on fuel and industries are run on fuel. They need this energy to run. Now, the cost of producing power is going to go up because the cost of getting fuel, the diesel to run these turbines and generate energy is going to cost a lot more money. And eventually the taxpayer is going to bear that burden. Now, what is the right thing to do? And many times you find political leaders coming to ask themselves, what is the easiest thing to do, rather than what is the right thing to do? The current administration is telling Kenyans that brace for tougher times for the next year or so, or the next year or two, and then things will start to get better. Now, there is no guarantee that things will get better, okay? But there is assurance that tough times are here, all right? So what the government ought to do, and actually even before we get there, what is it that they are doing? What they are doing is they are telling people, we are stopping forthwith these endless borrowing so that we do not continue to grow public debt. Now, if a child is born, do you stop breastfeeding them at once, or you gradually wean them? So you have to acclimatize them. You have to make them learn that, okay, this one is reducing. Not like just like closing the tap all at once, and then people are wondering, what are we supposed to do? So what I think is, borrowing is not bad, but what do you borrow to do? Okay, if you borrow and utilize the money, invest in infrastructure projects that would cause a ripple effect in the economy and cause multiplier effect, and then you are engaging the economy in the right way. Now, even US has a debt, but how do they manage their debt? How do they channel or direct the funds realized in terms of raising debt? All right, so they invest in projects that are helping the economy to grow. When you look at the country we have, it has so much potential, much as there is great peril. Now, when we have a sound, practical, and transparent leadership, this leadership will make decisions on policy matters that are going to help is the tough times that Kenyans are facing, because this bill does not guarantee that the economy is going to grow. It means Kenyans are bracing for tougher times, because what essentially is going to happen, there's going to be increased taxation, and when there is increased taxation, people don't have money to spend. Now, when you talk about spending from an economic policy perspective, it means you're spending to drive an economy. And if you don't spend,
Mr. Kigoli, kindly, sorry for interrupting you. Before you talk about spending, you've specifically mentioned matters borrowing. And the president has been very vocal, and he said he will not borrow. He'll not borrow more. He'll not be on a borrowing spree. And in the beginning of the year, the CS for Treasury said he told Kenyans to tighten their belts because things are going to be tougher, meaning they anticipated the country to be where we are at the moment. Now, in the budget, they're going to fund the deficit in the 2023-2024 budget through borrowing, around 718 billion. Now, of the 718 billion, 588 billion will be money from local lenders, and 131 will be money from international lenders. Now, I would want to know from you, is the president's policy on borrowing, reducing borrowing and ensuring that you get to fund your projects through taxes, is it the right policy, really, having it in mind the state of our Kenyan economy at the moment?
When you look at the policy on borrowing, they say we are going to reduce public debt. But look at the statistics. Numbers don't lie. Compare the same period with President Uhuru Kenyatta and their current 9 months in office. They have borrowed more, and this is well documented and attested to by the control of budget. The government is borrowing much as they're saying they don't want to borrow, okay? So borrowing is not a bad thing, but what we need is sincerity from government. Can they tell us, this is the policy we are advancing. We are significantly reducing borrowing, and in turn, we are doing this because government raises revenue in two main ways. Number one is through taxation. That is, we Kenyans must be taxed for government to raise revenue. Number two, and also most importantly, is borrowing. So if government cannot borrow, it means it has to tax you and me, okay? So if we are taxed less, it means the government has to borrow more. There is no any other magic to this. It is as simple and plain as that. Now, what the government should do is tell us, within the course of our financial year or the next financial year, we are going to significantly reduce borrowing while creating an enabling environment for the private sector to grow, to bring many people into that taxable bracket, so that we are many people who are paying taxes, and government has improved its chance of collecting revenue. If you tax people as you are doing right now, what you're doing essentially is dampening the business environment, and businesses will not thrive because they will wind up and people will go home. And when they go home, they don't have money. And when they don't have money, they can't spend, they can't pay taxes, and government cannot get revenue. What will it do? It will be forced to borrow. Even if it doesn't want, it must borrow. So the practical measure that this government must take, and this government must accept to get counsel. It must get, and wise counsel, by the way, because where we are as a country, we don't need politics. We need leadership. The country is in a political quagmire, in an economic crisis. We are at a debt distress, okay? When you look at the figures and the numbers coming out from, the Central Bank of Kenya, the Capital Markets Authority, you want to look at the Treasury, the Ministry of, the Treasury. You want to compare those digits and look at what exactly is the economic proposition of this government in terms of running the economy. So what they say is they want to empower small businesses. But on the other hand, Kenya Revenue Authority says you must pay us taxes. So you start working this month, please, at the end of the month, we're expecting you to start remitting taxes. So we don't have tax incentives, we don't have tax breaks, we don't have tax reliefs that would give businesses a a breathing space, to break even and be able to contribute significantly to the economy.
Mr. Kigoli, just want to take you to the claims by Raila Odinga and his team yesterday. And